right, good morning, everybody. Mark's always so kind. I say, I wish my dad was still alive because he would be surprised to hear someone say nice things about his son. My mom, on the other hand, would believe every word of it. I don't know if that works for you or not, but I've always had my mom saying, oh, I knew he was going to do something, and my dad's like, really? It's all good. Anyway, I'm excited to spend time with you again this morning, and it was a pleasure to see you last evening. It's a real honor to be here and to pay tribute to the man that this trophy is named after. But it's a greater honor to get the opportunity to speak to you about those who've been recognized because you have been recognized as someone who carries his name with distinction. That individual is Bill Campbell. But before we do that, I do want to start by thanking Mark and his team. They have put together an incredible summit for you over the next several days. I told you last night this is the must-attend event in the Silicon Valley, and I can attest to that because I've had multiple people ask how they can buy a ticket. But as I said last night, that's what makes this event special. You can't buy your way here. You have to earn your way here. And every one of you in this room has done just that. And that is an amazing thing. And I hope that's the way you feel when you leave after the next several days. Now, in honor of your accomplishments and in pursuit of your continued hope and drive for excellence, the agenda that Mark and the team have put together is going to be powerful. You're going to hear from some outstanding speakers. You're going to have a chance to learn from a renowned author and leadership guru, Liz Wiseman. And you're also going to have some camaraderie and some competitive fun along the way. And don't anybody get hurt. Don't pull a hamstring. We don't want to be on injured reserve. But it's going to be a fun several days. You're also going to get a chance to learn some new skills. And I think these are going to be the skills that will help you propel yourself in the next chapter. You'll learn about what it means to be a multiplier versus a diminisher. You'll get a chance to unpack some of the unconscious bias that each and every one of us have inside of us, whether you think you have it or not. And you're also going to have a chance to recognize that we all have the opportunity to set the tallest standard or to cast the darkest shadow based upon our behaviors and how we show up every day. Now, it promises to be a very powerful few days. It's going to be packed with some inspiration and a lot of perspiration. That's the way Bill Campbell used to love it. He used to say, I like that dirt under the fingernails crowd because they're the ones that get stuff done. Although he didn't say stuff. Which takes me to Bill Campbell. You're going to hear a lot of stories about Bill over the next couple of days. And Bill was nothing if he wasn't colorful. And by the way, it's a delight to see Eileen in here, Bill's lovely wife, who is with us today. A dear friend, and we've got Mr. Johnson, Eric Johnson back there. He is a lifelong friend of Bill Campbell as well. Let me call him out. But one of the things you'll hear about Bill is, Bill was, if I'm PG-13, Bill was rated R or maybe Cinemax After Dark. You're going to hear about R-rated language and F-bombs, but don't let that confound you. The profound impact this man had no equal. He was one of a kind. Every individual he met, he left better than he found them. And the world is a better place because Bill Campbell was in our lives. Now, I want to spend my time this morning talking to you about the power of coaching because when I think of a coach, I think of Bill Campbell. Bill was many things in many people's lives, but in most of our lives, he was known as the coach. It began on the football field. It carried over into the Silicon Valley, but quite frankly, it permeated every single thing he did in his life. Everyone who looked at him saw him as a coach. Now, as athletes, for those of you who do come in from the athletic field, you know the power of coaching firsthand. You've seen what a great coach can do. Perhaps you've experienced what a bad coach can do, and you have seen the profound impact they can have on those that are receiving their message. I always love the quote from Coach Tom Landry from the Dallas Cowboys back in the day. He said, a coach is someone who tells you what you don't want to hear, has you see that which you don't want to see, so that you can become that who you knew you could always be. And that, I think, is the power of a really good coach. Now, many of you are going to be moving on to the next chapter of your lives. And in that journey, I think that you're going to have the opportunity to discover that everything that you have come to form today, the things that got you to where you are the very same things that are going to propel you to where you're going. I'm going to finish with one last thought, and then I'm going to tell you a story about the most profound moment I got from Bill Campbell in the 21 years that he worked with us at Intuit. This thought is actually one from General Douglas MacArthur. I attended my freshman year at West Point. There is a huge statue of General Douglas MacArthur. He was the one who believed that all the naval academies, the Air Force academies, West Point, they all needed to have athletics. And the reason why was he believed that upon these fields of friendly strife are sown the seeds that upon other fields and other days will bear the fruits of victory. What he basically said was athletics was important because it taught you how to compete, it taught you how to perform as a team, and it taught you how to win. And that victory would carry on into your future life as well. And that's the foundation you have set as great student athletes. So now let me talk about Bill Campbell and coaching. Every one of us have experienced a coach in our lives. Probably my most important coach was my dad. He was my first coach. But after my dad, Bill Campbell was my most impactful coach. And out of all the moments that I have with Bill, there was one in particular that resonates, and I think it could actually apply to you given where you are in your journey today. When I was first named CEO of Intuit 11 years ago, I had a crisis of confidence. I was given the opportunity to lead one of the most established technology companies in the Silicon Valley, and I am not an engineer. And I thought that there was no way that I would earn the trust and credibility of this technology company when I had never written a line of code. And probably my greatest concern as our chief technology officer at the time was challenging every decision I had and was skeptical that I was the person that could run this company. And I really started to doubt myself. In fact, I thought the board had screwed up. And so I went to Bill because Bill was my coach, but Bill was also the chairman of our board and had been our CEO. And I sat with him and I was vulnerable. And I said, Bill, I don't think I can do it. Now, for anyone who ever experienced Bill Campbell, he had these eyes that could look right into your soul. And he listened to every word and he felt every feeling that you had. And so he stared deeply into my eyes. He listened with a heartfelt empathy. And then he looked at me, he took a deep breath, and he kicked my ass. He jumped in and said, let me tell you something. We do not need an effing engineer to run this company. We need a leader. We sit in the Silicon Valley. We are surrounded by people who can write code. That is not your job. Let me tell you what your job is. Your job is to paint the grand challenge, to inspire the passion in those who have magic talents that you don't have, and then to get out of their way so that they can do great things. That is what we expect of you. And that moment for me was a classic Bill Campbell moment. It was heartfelt, it was direct, it was on the money. But the other thing that happened right after Bill kind of caught my attention is he did this. Now you're going to hear about that later. This sound was the way Bill told you that was the sound effect of him helping you remove your head from someplace else. And he said, now that we got that behind us, let me tell you why I believe. He began telling me that there are two kinds of people in this world. There are the 0 to 1 people and the 1 to infinity people. He said the 0 to 1 people, they're Scott Cook, they're Steve Jobs, they're Mark Zuckerberg, they're Larry and Sergey, they're Elon Musk. They are the founders. They see things in the world no one else sees, and they invent it. But you know what, Brad? Then there are guys like us. The 1 to infinity team. We are the ones that can take those ideas, take those small teams, infuse in them the power of teamwork, teach them the values and the ethics, and scale that into something that will put a dent in the universe and take good to great. Now, what I didn't realize in that moment is Bill had used one of his famous Jedi mind tricks. He had said, guys like us. And in that process, he had somehow started to convince me that I was in Bill Campbell's class. Now, I want you to know something. Bill Campbell was a legend. He was an icon. All those names I just rattled off, most of them I suspect you know, Bill was their coach. So they had gone to him for advice. And yet he had somehow said, you are on my team. You are like me. You're one of the 1 to infinity guys. Now, I'll tell you something. That was the native genius of Bill Campbell. You're going to hear about this term native genius from Liz Wiseman when she speaks with you on day 2. But what Bill saw was the true you. He never wanted to change you. He wanted to tap in to your native genius and make you the best version of you that you could be. Bill was always fond of telling me, when I look at you, Brad, I see two people. The person you are today and the person you're capable of being. And I'm going to be there the day those two people meet. And somehow, when he looked at you, he saw greatness in you that you couldn't see in yourself. And he convinced you, and he got you to believe that you were capable of more than you may have thought you were capable of yourself. Now, I'll tell you something. God has given many gifts to humankind. I assure you I am not one of them. And I will stand here right now with clear eyes and a full heart and tell you that I am nowhere near Bill Campbell's class. But what Bill did do was help me become a better version of myself, because he got me to believe in myself in ways that I didn't believe before. But I want to tell you that you're all here because you have succeeded in two very competitive rounds. You are standout athletes and you are standout scholars. You have effectively risen to the top in two very competitive categories and distinguished yourself amongst your peers. But chances are you're about to enter a new chapter. For those of you who are leaving the field for the first time, you may be asking yourself if you have what it takes to do the next thing. Or I spoke with some of the recipients who were here last year who said, you know what, after last year, I changed my personal true north. I'm following a new journey now. I'm on a new path. And you know what, the last 12 months doesn't feel like I've worked today because I'm doing something that I love because of what I heard here last year. But you may have this moment, this pivot, where you're going to have to say, what do I want to do, and am I capable of doing it? If Bill was here today, he would tell you everything that got you to where you are will get you to where you're going. The very things that made you student athletes that were exceptional are the things that are going to make you exceptional in anything you choose to do. And I'll tell you why. Because you possess the three attributes that Bill cared about most. And these are the three. The first, you understand the power of preparation. Sun Tzu, The Art of War, famous quote. If you saw Wall Street back in my day, you all were not able to see it then because it was in the 80s, but you can watch it now on Netflix. Great quote that said, know thyself and know thy enemy. You need not fear the results of 1,000 battles. That is all about preparation. And as student athletes, you know that better than anyone. I'll bet there wasn't an exam you didn't cram for. There wasn't a game you didn't prepare for. You invested hours watching game film. You studied your opponent. You diagnosed your strengths. You diagnosed your vulnerabilities. And then you developed a game plan to optimize your strengths and minimize your vulnerabilities. And you really leaned into preparation. The second thing you know that Bill taught is teamwork. Life is a team sport. My favorite proverb is an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I doubt there's nothing you've accomplished in life that didn't come with a coach or with teammates. And I can assure you that life is a team sport. And I will also tell you that Coach Wooden had it right when he said, a player that makes the team great is more valuable than a great player. And so embrace the fact that you have grown up knowing that that was important. The third, and perhaps the most important, is you understand how to perform when the lights are the brightest. You were always out there on that big stage under those big lights, and when that moment counted, you delivered. And as a result, you got recognized for being that individual that people could count on when the game was on the line. Whatever life throws at you, you are ready because you understand the power of preparation, you understand the power of teamwork, and you know how to deliver when the moment is on the line. Those are the attributes that Bill lived, those are the attributes that Bill coached, and those are the attributes that Bill celebrated in those that he had the chance to work with each and every day. Now I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to wrap up and see if there's any questions that you'd like to ask me about all the years that we had the chance to experience and work with Bill. But I'm going to finish with these thoughts. There are lots of talented people in this world, just like there are a lot of people in the Silicon Valley who can write code. But there are very few people who've demonstrated the grit, the perseverance, the commitment to preparation, to teamwork, and to performance that you have. And that's what makes you special. That's what puts you amongst this elite group. That's what gives you the opportunity to be a part of the 1 to Infinity team, one of Bill's team. The ones who could take ideas, take teams, take a group of people, and move them from good to great. I'll finish with this last pearl of wisdom from Bill. Bill often said in life, your title makes you a manager, but your people around you will decide if you're a leader. Your GPA ranked you as an outstanding scholar. The fact you were on a college team made you a collegiate athlete. But the distinction you received when you were recognized and nominated for the William V. Campbell Trophy made you a leader amongst your peers. It distinguished you from everyone else. You are a special group. You have greatness in you. You've already demonstrated that in so many ways, but your best chapters are ahead. When I look at this team, I see who you are today, and I see who you're capable of being, and I want to be here to see those people meet as well. Thank you so much. It's a privilege to be here and to serve you today, and I can't wait for the next several days. We have a few minutes. Last year, I kind of got up and spoke and then jumped down, and so Mark said you have a little bit of time to take questions. I will share that Bill coached me for 15 years every 2 weeks. I've got lots of stories, lots of ideas. I also have a lot of scar tissue, having been the CEO for the last 11 years, so anything you want to ask is fair game, and if there are no questions, we'll be ahead of time on the agenda. So I'll open it up. Yes? Thank you. You know, there's two sides to discipline, and especially out here in the Silicon Valley, I'm a very structured person. People tease me because I have 2 fingers between every hanger in my closet. My shoes are lined up, and my clothes are color-coded. So I am absolutely on that spectrum right there where people could say I should be on the Monk TV show, like I could be OCD. And if I am, I am. But, you know, there's another side of the equation, which is creativity often happens in chaos. And so you have to know when it's okay to let go of the reins and let the debate happen, let the sloppiness happen, let the savor the surprise, which you'll hear from Scott Cook, our founder, a couple of days from now. We'll talk about the things that you didn't expect that just emerge are the things you want to also grab onto. But it's a combination of both. Bill used to be really, really skilled at saying there are times of war and there are times of peace. Good generals know what time it is. So there is time to be locked down, disciplined, and on your game, and there are times to let the chaos and the sort of surprise emerge, and you just have to know what time it is. And that's the balance I have to fight with every day in myself because I prefer the structure. Yes? You know, the question, if you couldn't hear, is how did I handle the chief technology officer who questioned everything that I had to say, or how do you handle coworkers that tend to disagree or challenge every idea you put forward? There are a couple techniques that we practice. One is, first of all, to ask yourself, how am I wrong and how are they right? So put yourself in their shoes. So first of all, assume if I'm wrong and they're right, and try to see it from their perspective. But then there's another technique that really works with teams, and this is actually one that Bobby Kennedy, President Jack Kennedy's brother, did for him in the Cuban Missile Crisis. And it's called black hat, white hat. And what happened was, at the time, if you're familiar with that part of history, there was a question of whether or not we were going to go to war. And there were the Hawks versus the Doves, and President Kennedy was a young president, and he was kind of crushing under the weight. And Bobby Kennedy, his brother, saw it, and he said, I don't want you to speak. I'm going to ask the Hawks to argue the Doves' point of view, and I'm going to make the Doves argue the Hawks' point of view. What happens is when those people actually switch roles and they have to argue the other person, they start to come closer. In the meantime, as the manager or the leader, you can hear both sides of facts, and then you speak last, and you're often much better informed. So you allow the debate to happen. You don't want to suppress debate because there is power in diversity of thought, but you do want to put a process around it so you can actually get the best outcome. You're welcome. It's a great question. Yes? Yeah, there's a lot that goes into the answer to that question, but I can tell you fundamentally what we did that got us to this greatest chapter of growth we've had in 19 years this year, and it is not me, it's the team, is 18 months ago, we took our top 150 leaders and we wrote down the 10 questions that worried us most about a decade from now. Things like blockchain, artificial intelligence, Bitcoin. We studied children under the age of 10 born after the invention of the iPhone because their brains are forming differently. Neuroscientists have actually put little nodes on their brains and they see that they're very different than we are. And we wanted to understand what the world would look like 10 years from now and what we need to start doing today. As a result of that work, 150 leaders came back with a view of the future. We charted a new course and said, this is our new mission. We're going to power prosperity around the world, but we're going to open up our product and become a platform. We're going to allow competitors to work with our product just like our own products do. And we're going to hold ourselves to the bar that says if we can't beat them in the open market, we deserve to lose. By doing that, the pride in our organization rose another level. Our products got exponentially better in 1 year. Competitors began to work with our product, but then their data flowed into our product, and our artificial intelligence went to work on that data. And we just unlocked growth. And so what basically happened is we reimagined the future. Fortune magazine wrote an article, and what they basically boiled it down to is this. They said, this is their words, not mine, Intuit is the Tom Brady of their industry. They're 35 years old playing like a rookie. And they have 3 characteristics that companies can learn from. The first, they view their business the way a disruptor coming out of a dorm room would view it. The second, they have the courage to change even when the business is performing well. And the third is they do this time and time again. It's what Bill Campbell did when he took over after Scott Cook. That's what all the successors after Bill did. This company constantly acts like it's day one. I think that's what allowed us to do it. And I promise you, it has nothing to do with me. It's been done by everyone before me, and it will be done by everyone after me. If you constantly disrupt yourself, you're going to have a new chapter of growth. Okay, yeah. You too. Where do you work? Yes. Yes. Yeah. She is my reason. We just celebrated our 25th anniversary. It was a blind date 25 years ago where I'd purchased tickets to take her to the Bolshoi Ballet in Cleveland, Ohio. I lived in Akron. She was a lawyer in Cleveland. And I didn't show up for the date. I missed the date. And we did a do-over. And I showed up the next day, and it was a true blind date. This was before social media. I didn't even see a picture of her. I opened up the door to her apartment, and I looked in her eyes, and I fell in love. It was love at first sight. So we've been married now 25 years, and this past year at Christmas time, I took her to see the Nutcracker in San Jose, and it was the Bolshoi Ballet, and she thought it was a make-good. But behind the stage, I had the prima ballerina present to her, your husband's taking you to the Bolshoi Theater in Russia. We just got back 2 weeks ago, so I took her to see the ballet in Russia. She gave me 2 beautiful daughters who are strong women. She raised my girls to be as independent and strong as she is. She has always been there and been my greatest critic and my biggest fan, and she's given me unconditional support and love. And quite frankly, she's helped me see the world through the eyes of a woman, and that's why I've always been a proud member of the Women's Network at Intuit. And anything I can do to bust the glass ceiling, I will, because I have a beautiful wife, and I have 2 strong women as daughters that I know have the odds stacked against them, but as long as I have a breath, I'm going to even those odds. That's what my wife means to me. How does one prepare to become a CEO? You know, I will honestly tell you, I never set out to be a CEO. I never imagined that I had any chance of being one, and to be honest, to this day, I can't believe that I've been one for 11 years. I have surrounded myself with people smarter than me, and that is the truth. But I will also say that probably the greatest piece of practical advice I can give you came from Meg Whitman. For those who know Meg, she was the famous CEO of eBay and went on to run HP, and now she's running a media company in LA. Meg once said, if you want to get to where you're going in your career, play golf. Now, I thought, play golf? And so I said, hey, what's your handicap? She said, I don't play golf. I said, now, wait a minute. How'd you give that advice, play golf? She said, because if you know anything about golf, this is what you're supposed to do. Keep your head down, focus on your swing, follow through, look up and see where you hit the ball, choose your next club, and play. Those who focus on someone else's swing, those who focus on the scoreboard all the time, have the worst score. So if you do the job you're supposed to do at the moment you're supposed to do it, kind of like a coach would say, play the next play. Don't think about the championship. Don't think about the playoffs. Play the next play, win the next game, and you wake up one day and you're CEO. That's the best piece of advice I could give you. We have time for one more, I think, Mark. We good till 9? Okay. One last one. Yes. Sure. So the question here was a time management question. Sure, you're pulled in 1,000 directions, all of you are, and what do you do to make sure you're getting the most important things done and also carving out time to do the things you may want to do as well? This is where, first, Bill's overarching goal of times of war and times of peace, good generals know what time it is. It's just like, hey, when it was time to buckle down for an exam or to get ready for a game, you had to sacrifice going out and hanging out with your friends, and you had to do what you had to do, and then once that was over, you went out on the streets and you had a good time. Same thing happens in life and same thing happens in work, but there are 2 techniques that I've found have been very helpful for me. The first is I have 100 points and I allocate them against the areas that I want to spend my time. And so for me, I actually say I want to spend 30% of my time with our people. I want to spend 40% of my time on our products. I want to spend 20% of my time learning from outside experts, other CEOs, and the 10% of my time I want to spend reading books and watching TEDx videos and trying to get the best ideas of the future. And then my assistant or I color code every meeting I put on my calendar one of 4 colors. Every month I print out a pie chart, and if I'm out of bounds, I ask myself, was that justifiable or was that just me not being disciplined? And I adjust. That's one, but here's the other. In life, there are moments that are going to be rubber moments and crystal moments. And yes, the job's always going to want more of you than you can give. And at the same time, you're going to have, in my case, a daughter saying, Daddy, I want you at the dance recital, or I want you at my lacrosse game. And then you're tugging, your heart is tugging. How do you make that decision? Well, you have to ask yourself if that's a rubber moment or a crystal moment. A rubber moment is my daughter would have 16 dance recitals in a dance season. If I missed one, it broke her heart, it broke my heart, but I knew there was one right after it. But there's only one graduation. There's only one homecoming or prom. There's only one birth of a child, and that's a crystal moment. If you let that go, it hits the ground and it shatters. Never, ever prioritize work or anything over a crystal moment, but be really clear which ones are made of rubber and take that short-term pain because it helps the team and you'll have the chance to make that up to the person that you love. So crystal and rubber moments. Thank you so much. It is a real privilege to be here. I look forward to spending time with you over the next several days.